Thank you very much for coming today, everybody. This is what we're calling our welcome party. We did have a party in February here, recording our launch party. And the reason is that up until December, this was an Indian restaurant, with kitchens at the back there, and it was fitted out so that it looked like the Taj Mahal. It was completely different. We're now celebrating this as London's bright new home of pre-owned and hire pianos. Our guest of honour today, and I'm delighted to welcome her, is Frau Diktorin Ann-Kathrin Förster. Yes. The workforce at August Förster call her the chefin. She's the boss. She is the 5th generation of the family of August Förster. Many of you here today have bought August Förster pianos, so you'll enjoy talking to Anne later on. The main thrust of our business is to be selling quality pianos to musicians who want to make and enjoy music. And we represent August Förster and Schimmel here in London. But having this facility next door means that we can also stock second-hand pianos, and we've got a number here for people to try today, and we've also got hire pianos. So when you're looking at second-hand pianos, it's easy to get lost in a maze of choice and variety. There's pianos made nowadays in every corner of the world, and when you're buying a piano, you need to be sure, even if it's a second-hand piano, that it's going to be an inspiration for you, that it's going to work. So the idea is that each volunteer plays a different piano, and then we can have a little discussion as to whether that piano worked for that music and that pianist. Because if you come to Peregrine's Pianos to buy an instrument, we're not going to ask you first of all how much money you've got, and if you can't afford a new one, we're going to sell you a second-hand one. That is not the idea at all. We're going to be asking you, what piano do you have at the moment? How much time do you spend at the piano? What sort of music are you playing on it? What do you expect from your piano? And it's those inherent musical questions that must be the guiding factor for everything. So, who's going to be our first piano player today? Do you want to be first? No? Everybody ready?
I was not really used to this machine, so it was a bit more difficult. But the song is great.
Very, very punchy and powerful.
When you're talking about a quality instrument, you can play something contrapuntal like that, and you can hear all the separate voices. So we were well aware of your left hand, which was wonderful. Schimmel is actually the most highly awarded German piano. It was founded in Leipzig in 1885, but with all the financial difficulties in the 1920s, the rampant inflation and the Great Depression, and at that time also everybody thought that the gramophone and the radio were going to replace the piano so that nobody needed to play the piano anymore. So the piano sales slumped in Germany. And Schimmel moved out of Leipzig and they moved to Braunschweig. And after the Second World War in the 1950s, they came up with lots of new ideas. They built the piano, which was dinky piano, the smallest piano that you've ever seen, came out of the Schimmel factory in the 1950s. And they were the first company to build a glass piano.
It's lovely. Yeah, it's not what I was expecting, and it's not like the one next door. I don't know, there's a word for it, I can't quite think of it, but yeah, it wasn't what I was expecting.
Right. Well, August Forster has got a very long history. They've been in the same factory for 165 years, but they did suffer after the war because they were in Eastern Germany and the family business was taken over by the Soviet control. So Anne's dad, although he was a director of the factory, he was controlled by the politics. The political powers were telling him how to run the factory and how many pianos to turn out. This piano dates from the Soviet years. So it is interesting to have that here. It's a well-built piano, it's a handcrafted piano, but when somebody plays the one next to it, which is a new piano, 50 years later, we will all hear the difference.
I think I have at home. I think it was like, it's a sensitive piano. It's got a lot of expression and range. And I think this one is. This one is like the piano we just played on. I think sometimes you have to work to get the colours that you want. It helps you to, I think, focus on the sound you want, really.
It's a functional piano, and for a youngster and for occasional use, it's perfect. This is made at a different price point. We're not charging so much money for this piano, but we rather liked the frontage of it, so we brought it in, and it's nice to have it in the shop so that people can see the contrast.
But it was really nice and made. The middle of the register. Yeah. I think also the harmonies, the colors you got from were very nice, and it kind of resonated in the room. I think it had a special flow actually.
Thank you, Marco.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, Yeah, nowadays I'm mostly relegated to an electric keyboard because my daughters are studying for the GCSEs, so it's always a pleasure to play real piano anyway.
Yes. Well, you know, it's an acoustic piano is something very precious, and a piano like this has got the middle pedal, so you can play it softly. Samik is again an Asian piano, so we're not talking in the same sort of league as the Germans, but it is quite a remarkable story about Samik because they started in 1958, right when the Korean War was on. They're in Seoul, in South Korea. They built very, very quickly into a big name, and the secret was that they have quality control at every stage of the manufacturing process. I mean, it's something we've done in Europe for years. This is an English piano. This is by Broadwood. Now, a Broadwood has a very long history. It was established in 1728, years and years ago, and it grew to be a very large company. By the time of the Great Exhibition in 1850, it was about the world's largest piano manufacturer, and it was the 11th biggest employer in London. And they had showroom and workshops in Golden Square, just off Regent Street. That was the heyday for Broadwood pianos. But Broadwood pianos had this fantastic reputation for making the quintessential English piano for the English country home. And the English country home in those days was big, and the pianos they made were big like that or bigger, and they were experts at the grain, making the wood, so you could sit at a Broadwood grand piano and the strings stretched out away from you. It was the thing. When you look at a piano action, it's a very sophisticated piece of machinery. This is an action by Renner. Sometimes people think, you know, if a note's not working properly, we can just fix it. It's always much more time consuming than you think. And that's why when you buy a piano, you need to keep it regulated, keep the technician coming regularly. So we would always send out a technician every 2 or 3 years even to a second-hand piano, the tuner 2 or 3 times a year. But they're quite different people. The technical work is incredibly important. So buying a second-hand piano can be very rewarding, but you know, do be careful, do check up on what you're buying. Eh?
How they all sound often these days.
Hooray!